Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and today we're back with another Honkai Star Rail guide video, and we are going to be actually talking about a free-to-play guide in terms of how to clear Memory 11 of the Forgotten Hall in terms of free-to-play team composition. This is the first time that we probably have our team split into two, and I'll be also showing you which are the teams that I use, as well as talking about some boss mechanics and how you can handle them, and some tips and tricks I have as well. But first things first, before I go into like characters and how I build them, let's talk real quick in terms of what teams do I recommend. For those of you who have been like following my channel, you know that the main 4 characters I use on this channel is actually Fire MC, Natasha, Esta, as well as Dunhing. And I think the first and most important strat you have is you need to split your main team up into a 2-2 formation, which means because these are like your best geared characters, whatever team comms you have now, you can either like follow my own free-to-play teams in terms of my comm, or you can just take the concepts that I'm applying and just apply it to your team. So like look at your roster, the most strongest 4 characters that you have in your team, split them up into each one side. And how you're going to determine this is you want to click into details over here and actually look at the bosses here. Don't care about the small minions because they are very squishy and die relatively quickly. Look at the main boss and see what is weak against physical, ice, as well as quantum. And the second one is like fire, lightning, and quantum. So you know that you actually want to have more of like your fire damage dealers in the second half, and you want, for example, a little bit more ice presence in the first half. So out of like Fire MC versus Esta, I actually prefer Esta in terms of her fire damage. So I'm going to go ahead and take Esta out and put her in the second half. So that's like the logic of how you want to split your teams as well in terms of tackling the content. What's left, of course, in terms here is like I'm looking still for ice damage, and out of the 3 of them that works really well, Natasha and Esta combo extremely well together. So I'm going to go ahead and like fit Esta together with Natasha in the second half, and Dunhing and Fire MC will be my first half. So as you can see here right now, I'm actually lacking on every single damage option in terms of weakness breaking. So I have nothing to weakness break. What this means is I need to add in the last 2 slots needs to come from a physical element, or for example ice element. So in terms of like the characters I have built, for example, if you maybe build Herta as well as Susang, you can of course put both of them in and you will tackle it very nicely, one AoE and one physical. But here I just chose to opt for a free-to-play character like March 7, who is part of the Astro Express crew and everyone has, and you can choose Herta if you wanted, but I built Pella. I like Pella's design quite a bit, so I prefer putting Pella. And also her English VA is Altina from Trials of Cold Steel, so I definitely support her, the VA as well. So in terms of this composition, we are more or less checked. We have a good AoE damage dealer in terms of Pella. Why is she an AoE damage dealer? I've already done like build guides videos in depth on her. You can check it out. I highly recommend you check out. It's a very underrated character that not a lot of people are talking about as well. But this is going to be my AoE damage dealer, and Dunhing, of course, I'm a Dunhing main, and he's going to be my single target damage dealer to carry like the first part of the account, the first part of the memory stage 11 as well. And now let's talk in terms of like the second half and how am I planning to build it. So right now we have a little bit of fire, and of course now we are looking for anything with the other elemental. We don't have any damage dealers in this half, and note that we are actually quite weak on this half because our main like damage dealer here, Dunhing, has already been placed in the first half. And in terms of this composition, I actually like the free-to-play Serval, which we all got from the pre-registration rewards, and Ting Chue, who's a quantum DPS here. So if you notice, it's a lot of AoE damage, but I would say is relatively okay for this stage, because this boss, this Frigid Prowler boss, does like to summon quite a lot of small minions, and having that AoE allows us to wipe out the small minions before he absorbs them and gets even more powerful. So it will probably be a summon. I don't think they show it in this list, but yeah, he does summon like small monsters and eat them up later on to increase its own damage. That is why also we want to have a little bit more healing and sustain in the second half, as it's probably going to be the harder of the 2 sets as well. Okay, and now before I go in terms of the fight itself and showing you the boss mechanics, as you can see here, I don't have any other characters level up. Gepard was just because I was using him as a support character early on. But let's go ahead and take a look at my 8 characters that I selected, and in terms of how I roughly build them and the strategy that I'm approaching in terms of these team composition as well. Alright, so now we are in the character screen. In terms of like my damage dealers, let's talk about the first team first. Danheng is actually running this 5-star light cone that you can get from the Herta shop once you have cleared like a simulation room 4 and above. I've already done build guides in terms of like how to clear the simulation room in terms of tactics for World 4 and World 5. You guys can check out, I just used a free-to-play team comp like the first 3 characters and Fire MC that you see here. Anyone can do it as well, so go ahead and check it out if you are interested to get this 5-star light cone for free that free-to-play players can get as well. And in terms of like relics, what am I focusing on is I'm generally trying to focus him build for a little bit more on speed and attack. He's going to be my main damage dealer, and of course, as you can see here, I already have his crit rate pretty high at 41.4%. That is also excluding like a lot of other buffs he gets, for example his ailerons and stuff like that as well. So that's Danheng in terms of my DPS. He's not going to be very significant because he has nothing to break in this game, in this floor as well. And in terms of the other members of my first team, my main character, Fire MC, she has a bit of crit rate as well. I built her a little bit in terms of crit rate, and what I'm running in terms of light cone is a day 1 of my new life. It gives a very solid amount of like damage reduction to the entire team, and also gives Fire MC a lot more stats in terms of defense as well. 4-star light cone just sustain a little bit. She's going to be the one that's taking most of the damage in the first half, so I definitely want her to have a bit more stats as well. And of course, in terms of relic, I'm running a 4-piece Guard of Wuthering Snow, an additional damage reduction. That's like my strategy. And also when she goes below 50% HP, gets at least a bit of HP sustain, and as well as regenerating a bit of energy to do a little bit more damage on the side as well. And it works very nicely together with like comboing up with March 7. As you can see here, I'm not even running a full 4-piece. She's just a character that I have hardly built. I just leveled her up and I'm taking her into the battle. And she's just mainly used to like concentrate the aggro onto Fire MC and used to mainly break the enemies, because when she counters, she does ice damage, which will help quite a bit in terms of like breaking the enemy boss's weakness break. And as you can see, like here, light cone, I'm just using like a 3-star light cone as well. When she uses her ulti, she heals a little bit of life just for a bit of sustain, so she can survive a bit longer on the field as well. And as you can see, not very highly invested, I just leveled them up and anyone that if you farm properly and use the efficiency guides I taught you, you also have quite a bit of resources. I'm not very early in my Trailblaze level either. I'm like around like 37 now, so it has quite a long way in terms of farming guidance that you have as well. And the last member for my first team, I'm actually using Pella. I've done more of like an in-depth guide on her already, but I'll just talk very briefly. In terms of the light cone, I'm running Good Night Sleep Well for a very general, when there's additional debuff, increased damage. Combos very nicely with Danheng, who slows the target, and combined together with her defense down, already that's like 2 debuffs settled already. And in terms of relics, I am running just some damage reduction here, a little bit of attack here, and as you can see, I just mostly level anything to do with like attack, ice damage bonus, as well as a little bit on speed boots as well. Just trying to get a little bit more damage chip in. She's my AoE damage dealer to settle a lot of the small monsters that are on the side that Danheng can't kill as well. So that is my first team in terms of like the thought process. The second team, I just want to talk a bit about the Esta and Natasha combo. These two actually are like bread or like peanut butter and jelly. The reason is because Natasha gives a lot of skill points to the team. She doesn't really need to heal every turn and she auto attacks quite a lot. Esta on the other hand drinks a lot of skill points, does like to use her E very often. So when you put these two together, they are actually net neutral in terms of skill point usage most of the time in every match. You could like use a normal attack for her for one match and then use her heal, and then it becomes like net neutral as well. And another reason why they work very well together is she buffs the entire team's attack, and also at the same time pushing up the entire team. Natasha generally doesn't have super amounts of speed, and she prefers to build more defensively in terms of stacking HP. And one thing to note is also her talent cost. Let's just see if we can see her ultimate ability. The cost is actually 90, which is very, very low. If you look at, for example, maybe Fire MC, which we all are more familiar with, the energy cost is much higher at 120. So generally, if you push her up in terms of speed, you have quite good uptime in terms of the healing that Natasha does provide as well. And that's just something to point out. In terms of light cone, I'm using post-op conversation. I've already done like build guides on all these units over here, and you can check it out if you want more details as well. And in terms of relics, I'm just using the free sets that we have in terms of Passerby of Wandering Cloud. Esta, I'm running just a mixed combo of reduced damage taken as well as increased attack. And of course, in terms of light cone, I'm running Dance Dance Dance, which when she uses her ultimate, she pushes her team up even more as well. Okay, and the last two characters that I talk about, of course, will be Serval as well as Tingche. Let's talk about Tingche first because I don't really have her very well built. She's just going to be here in terms of adding a little bit more quantum damage. As you can see from this exclamation mark here, I didn't really hyper invest in her yet. I'll be doing so as I progress and get more resources in my account, and I'll be doing build guides on her as well. I think she's a pretty strong unit to take into the late game. And in terms of how I'm building her, I'm mainly using her for quantum damage. I am using the seriousness of breakfast as well, and increases damage by done, and whenever she defeats an enemy, increases attack. Not really very vital in terms of strategy, so I'm going to like run through it briefly. I'm just using her mainly as like a slot filler, as well as to do quantum damage to break weaknesses as well. And of course, my damage dealer in my second half will be Serval. She does very good amounts of AoE damage, and also in the sense she's going to be the thing that's carrying, she's going to be the one that's carrying my team in the second half as well. All the damage is going to likely come from her and maybe a little bit from Asta on the side as well. I'm using Make the World Clamor. We got this from the web event, and it does very good amounts of ultimate damage increase, and together with Asta, she does get pushed up quite a bit in terms of her, not only her ultimate energy recharge, but also gets to attack quite often with the additional speed buff that Asta provides as well. In terms of relics, I'm running a 4-piece Guard of Wandering Snow, and as you can see here, I'm actually running a mix of the 2-piece because this one gives me lightning bonus, whereas the other one doesn't, but I have no resources to level this one up yet. And so as you can see, like my characters are not fully stacked out and geared in, but I try my best to farm efficiently and gear up the right things as much as I can. So I basically like level up offensive items like the cloak as well as the gloves as well. I'll be doing Serval guides, so you guys can check it out if you are interested in more details on these characters and how to play them as well. Good amounts of sustain and good amounts of energy recharge if they drop below 50%. It's just a very general set, as I mentioned previously in my efficiency farming guide videos. Okay, and that is basically like the concepts. If you followed like most of these builds and you use these characters, I'm pretty sure if you have followed like the thought process I have so far, you will likely be able to clear, especially since you are allocating characters to the right typing. But now let's talk in terms of like going into the match itself, and I'm going to just give you like very key snippets of what is important and what I'm taking note of as well. And okay, for those of you who don't know at this point, you actually want to put your main tank, that is the one that's going to soak damage, on the extreme end. And for example, March 7 is also relatively tanky in terms of her ability to soak damage. She also has the light cone which allows her to heal when she uses her ultimate. So I put them side by side. And the reason is because when the boss or hits you and does any splash damage, at least only the two that can heal up and soak damage will get damage, rather than if you put your main tank in the center, you have a splash damage of 3 characters. So just some like very simple things to take note of as well. And in the first half, you want to take this down as quickly as you can, especially if this is your main damage dealer. Note that we have 30 cycles here, and you actually want to try to allocate evenly in terms of who is your stronger team should actually clear it faster and give more access to the second half. Personally, I find the second half harder than the first half, and don't worry about using your skill points here. Just go ahead and use it. It refreshes for your second half. So I'm just going to go ahead and use buffs on my characters.
This will strengthen our position.
And I like to use Pella because she does a AoE defense break as well.
Too late to repent.
Okay, so the first wave, you just want to wipe it out as quickly as you can with your AoE DPS. So I'm just going to use Danheng to, for example, just lower the life, and hopefully I can get rid of it with Pella. I'm just like stocking up in terms of skill points as well, because you want to clear this ASAP so that your team can go in with as much time as you can. Then the DPS check does begin.
Commencing support. Enemy data secure. Net markers activated. Time for a good old counterattack.
So that's the first wave done, and we have about 28 turns left. I'm just taking note at the clock. I want to clear this ideally within 26, maybe 26, 25 turns left. Will be really nice going into the second half as well. So here, the strategy here, he doesn't absorb the monsters, so you can actually leave them be and mainly focus damage on the main target. For here, I'm just using Danheng to slow the target down. I don't really want to use the ultimate yet, because I want the defense break from Pella first with her ultimate, then I'll actually commit to the ability.
I'm on guard. Tough luck running into me. You can't run. Gotta try hard some. Watch this awesome move. Lance ablaze. Lance forward.
So even though March isn't like very well built, she still does a lot of break damage, as that's what like she's mostly used for in this setting. For here, I'm just gonna go ahead and use my ultimate ability, even though the boss doesn't have any defense break. It's just to like maximize the amount of efficiency because I get a lot of it back once I auto attack.
Enemy targets detect. Ready for another? Try that again! Enemy data secured. Net markers activated. Time for a good old counterattack!
Okay, so we are taking note at the clock. We have about 27 turns left. We want to try to finish this as soon as we can. The boss is going to release an attack. It's going to damage quite a bit, but I don't really care. I'm just going to chip his HP down as much as I can.
Commencing support.
It's time.
The truth of life and death. The sanctuary is but a vision.
You can't run! Enemy targets detected. Gotta try hard, son. Watch this awesome move.
So some small things I'm looking at, I noticed that the boss is going to go. I didn't intend to draw any aggro, so Pella might get her burst up. So in this case, I'm actually just going to auto attack here.
Try that again.
So that was just like RNG, so Pella didn't get her ultimate up. But it should be fine. We should be able to end this game.
Enemy data secure. Net markers activated. Time for a good old counterattack.
Victory means preparation.
Feeling lucky.
Found.
Scared yet?
So here, similar strategy, we want to try to hit the wave as much as we can, so we are able to clear it soon so that we don't waste as much rounds as we can.
Ready to lose yourself? You can fight it or rock with it.
Time for a shot. Now time. Wait for the times. Who invited you? Who will it be?
So if you notice, it was almost the 24th turn, but the moment the round came back, we actually got a like so-called free turn as long as we didn't hit that marker. So that was pretty nice.
Turn it up! Everything is ridiculous. Oh, stars, give these trailblazers your blessing! I'm okay.
Ready to lose yourself? You can fight it or rock with it.
Naughty child. Nap time. My turn. Scared yet? Who will it be?
Pretty good crowd today.
Let's rock. Look at the draw. Please. And victory! Choose me strike.
This song's for you.
Turn it up.
Ready to lose yourself? You can fight it or rock with it.
Just a little something. Think nothing of it.
So one thing to know, if he
No
does that
manners,
devouring
huh?
offerings ability and he has no offerings, he actually gets a free defense break on this unit. That's like something to know in terms of like boss mechanics. Free damage, so we'll take it as well.
Time for the main event.
Stars, give these trailblazers your blessing. Gravitas. Wow. Oh, this sucks. Stay calm.
That's it. Who will it be? Let's rock.
Time for a shot. Just a little something. Think nothing of it.
Who invited you?
So the rule is like just try your best to like eliminate as much of the small mobs as you can, and then just like this boss is just basically a DPS check afterwards.
Pretty good crowd today. Ready to lose yourself? You can fight it or rock with it. No manners, huh? Who will it be?
And yeah, if you found this video helpful in terms of like the strategies we talked about as well, do like and subscribe for more of such future content. I'll definitely be making more free-to-play guides on the channel, so you guys can check back if you're finding any difficulty too. Check out these two other videos which I think you might be interested in, and see you in the next video.